Okay, hi everyone. In this video, this is a guide on how to retrieve the forms to fill up if you are engaging our company as the corporate secretary. So on our homepage, right, singaporesecretaryservices.com, this is the homepage. You can actually scroll down and you can retrieve the forms here. So it says download company registration documents. You just click this, it'll pop up another tab, and these are the forms, right, which you require if you are incorporating a new company. So you require the incorporation of new company form, the client acceptance checklist, form 45 for each director. So each director has to fill this form 45. Service agreement, SSIC code. This is actually the Singapore Standard Industrial Classification, which means that if your company is, let's say, doing trading, then there would be a certain code for the type of trading that you are doing. So you require this when you incorporate, because you have to tell the registrar what your company is doing. So this SSIC code, you can click here and then you can get to a link on ACRA's website. You can actually search for the code there. But if you don't know, right, don't worry. You can just put down a general description of what your company does. Then we will work it out from there. We'll suggest the SSIC code to you. Then it's up to you to agree, and then after we'll use the SSIC code for the incorporation. Then I require the identification documents for all directors, shareholders, officers and controllers of the company. So a controller is generally, if the person is not listed as the shareholder, right, then maybe the shareholder is holding the shares in trust, then I will need that person's identification document as well. So if you are local, right, then you would have your NRIC, your identification card number for Singaporeans and permanent residents. If you are a foreigner, then I require your passport copy for foreigners. Then if you're a foreigner, right, I need your proof of residence, which means that you provide me with your latest phone or utility bill that shows the applicant's name and home address. Essentially, it has to be within the last 6 months. Okay, it has to match. So for Singaporeans and permanent residents, right, you provide us your NRIC, and the registered address is on the back of the identification card. So it's not necessary for you to provide us with the proof of residence. But for foreigners, right, we require you to provide us with the proof of residence. Okay, so please note that for incorporation, we will only accept bank transfer. The ownership of the bank account must match the name on the invoice of our company. So if let's say you are going to be the shareholder and the director of the company, then we will invoice you directly, and then you have to pay, and you have to show us proof of payment that this money is coming from your bank account. This is so that we can ascertain who we are dealing with. We must make sure that the monies are not somebody else funding you to open the company on behalf of that individual. Okay, so if for companies already incorporated, so that means that it might be a already incorporated company, then you may want to change the company secretary. You may want to engage our company to do the corporate secretarial work, okay, on the yearly basis. So in this case, right, you have to fill up the client acceptance checklist. Same also for each director, shareholder and beneficial owner. So one form for each individual like before. And then you have to fill up the service agreement. So the form 45, it's essentially there is because some clients, right, they never get the directors to fill up the form 45. But if you already have filled this up, then when we take over the files from the previous secretary, right, it would already be there. So for companies that are already incorporated, right, you will need the client acceptance checklist and the service agreement. Then also we need your identification documents and proof of residence, if let's say it's an overseas individual. So we need to know who we're dealing with. So even though your company has already been incorporated, if you're a Singaporean or Singapore permanent resident, we need a copy of your identification card. If let's say you're a foreigner, then we need a copy of your passport. Okay, and then of course the proof of residence within the last 6 months to ascertain where you're residing. Okay, so if there are some blog posts which are here, you may want to refer to these blog posts if you have any questions. We have a resource page, so you can click on this resource page, right, and then there are many articles on how to run a company. So let's get into the forms proper. So for the forms, right, okay, let's start with the incorporation of a new company. So the proposed company name, right, you will actually have to give us preferably 3 options. The company name, the suffix at the back is PTE Ltd, private limited. So if you're incorporating a private company limited by shares, right, it will be PTE Ltd. You can spell it in full in the sense that you can spell out the whole word private limited, but it's something that we don't encourage. So if your company, let's say, is ABCXYZ, that's the name that you want, then it will be ABCXYZ PTE Ltd, private limited. So it's ABCXYZ private limited. But you have to give us 3 names. We will do a search and we will get back to you as to whether these names are available or not. Then, like I mentioned, right, there's this SSIC code, this Singapore Standard Industrial Classification. Previously, I showed you all the link. You can actually use that. You can click that, and then you can go to this ACRA page, which you can actually type in, like let's say you're doing trading, then you type trading, then the different SSIC codes for the different trading companies, right, will come out. So trading in what commodity or trading in what, they will come out different SSIC codes. So each company can have 2 SSIC codes. They can have 2 activities, one primary, one secondary. In most cases, the company only has a primary activity, but if you have a secondary activity, you can include that in. You cannot have more than 2 activities, just to take note, but you must minimally have 1. So in most cases, clients will actually come up with 1 SSIC code, which is the primary activity SSIC code. If you don't know, then you can just describe what your company is going to do. Then you can just fill up here. We will suggest the SSIC code to you. We cannot fill up these forms for the clients because the information has to be retrieved from the client. But if let's say you fill up the form in a manner which is maybe unclear, we will clarify with you, and then we will advise you before we make amendments to the form that you've provided to us. Okay, and in some cases, right, you will need in principle approval to be obtained from other authorities. So example, if you're incorporating an employment agency or a company which maybe is dealing with securities or investments, and you will need to get the relevant government authorities to approve you first, approve a license before you incorporate. So in some cases, like the Monetary Authority of Singapore may need to approve a license first. So in this case, if you have in principle approval of that license, then you circle yes. Similarly for, let's say, employment agency, so you need to have maybe an in principle approval from the Ministry of Manpower to start an employment agency, then you put yes here. So the company type, right, generally, if it's all natural persons as the shareholder, not more than 20 shareholders and no corporate shareholders, right, then you would take this exempt private company limited by shares. So most of the time people come to us for the first 2. Okay, so exempt private company limited by shares or private company limited by shares. Those non-profit companies, right, then it will be public company limited by guarantee. So if you're or if you want to incorporate a public company, then it will be public company limited by shares. So we do mainly these first 4. There is actually very little motivation for individuals to start an unlimited company. Therefore, you would see that the last 3 options, right, are very rare. In very, very rare and limited circumstances would someone incorporate an unlimited company. So in most cases, it will be the first one. Exempt means what? Exempt from audit. You don't need to get an auditor to audit your books. Okay, and this issue share capital, right, and number of shares and share type. So share type, generally you would issue ordinary shares, so you would key ordinary here. Issue share capital, the difference between issue share capital and paid up capital is issue share capital is the number of shares which are issued to the shareholders. The paid up capital is the number of shares which are already paid up. So in this case, right, let's say the issued share capital is 1,000 and the number of shares is 1,000, then if these shares are paid up, right, then everything is 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. Okay, so if you are not paid up, right, then this one will put 0. That means that the shares are issued to the shareholder but are not paid up. In most cases, we will always tell the clients this is so-called the starting capital. That means that the shareholders have invested money into the company. what is the amount of money which they want to put into the company. So if they say, oh, I want to put maybe $10,000 into the company, okay, then I'm telling them, okay, if I incorporate the company for you, then the company starts a corporate bank account. What is the amount of money that's supposed to go in? Because if you recall, right, a company is a separate legal entity. It's as though it's another person. So what the company spends has to come from this bank account. That's the starting balance. So in this case, right, this is so-called the starting balance. In most cases, let's say a client says I want 1,000 paid up capital. Usually I'll tell them to put 1,000 shares. So one share costs $1. Okay, so registered address, right? This is the registered address of the company. If you require our company to provide a registered address service for you, then what you will do is that you can just leave this blank. Just inform us that you need to use our registered office address service. Then we will actually receive the mails on your behalf, scan them or take photograph, and then WhatsApp you or email you, or put into a Dropbox or Google Drive folder, then share it with you. So this mail forwarding address, right, if it's applicable, if not, then you can just leave it blank. Typically, right, this mail forwarding address, so sometimes the registered address, you put it as ours, then the client may say that if you receive the letters on my behalf, I want you to forward to my home address, then you will put your home address here. But of course, every time when we forward to your home address, right, then there will be costs involved. Then we will just pass on the cost of the forwarding of the letters to you. So in most cases, our clients say that it's okay, just put your registered address, then anything you can just scan the document and then send it to me via WhatsApp or email. Okay, so financial year end, right, normally we'll set this as 365 days from the date of incorporation. If let's say today is, let's say, the 1st of June 2022, then after that you would put it as 31st of May 2023. So that's 365 days from the day of incorporation. We'll explain this in another video moving forward as to how you may want to choose your financial year end. But for starters, right, if you're incorporating a company, we normally recommend clients to set their financial year end as 365 days from the day of incorporation. Okay, so next, right, officers and authorized representatives of the company will need you to fill up this portion. So if let's say you're a director, you're going to be a director of the company, then that would constitute as an officer. Then you just fill up everything here. So authorized representative, maybe you, as there are 3 directors, then there's maybe 1 admin manager, which the directors say, oh, you all just liaise with the admin manager most of the time. If you require any documents to be signed or whatever, then you can liaise with the admin manager. There's a CEO or something also. You can just fill up the information here. So any officer, authorized representative of the company have to put up the information here. Okay, these are the shareholders. So for shareholders, right, sometimes the directors and the shareholders are the same people, so you will just repeat the shareholder information here. Okay, if it's a corporate shareholder, then you need to fill this up. So if it's a corporate shareholder, we will need business information about the shareholder, the certificate of incorporation of that corporate shareholder. If it's a local company that is a corporate shareholder of this local company which you're trying to set up, then you will need to give me the business profile. If let's say it's a foreign company, let's say the company is it's in Malaysia, or let's say if it's an Indonesian company being a corporate shareholder of this soon to be set up Singapore company, then you fill in the document, the details here. You will need to give me the incorporation certificate of that company with business profile of that company. Okay, and if let's say you have more than 1 shareholder, right, what you can do is that you can just replicate this page. You can replicate this page and then just add on to another shareholder and just fill up the shareholder box again. Okay, so next, right, we move on to this client acceptance checklist. So for incorporation of company, of course, the one that I just went through, right, you don't need to fill up the company, the incorporation of new company form if you've already incorporated your company. So this client acceptance checklist, right, everybody has to fill up, which means that if whether you are incorporating a new company or if your company has already been incorporated, right, we need this because we need to know who we're dealing with. Okay, so this is some customer due diligence that registered filing agents like ourselves, we will need to adhere to. So this form is actually passed to us by the registrar, so by ACRA. It's not that clear as to how one should fill the form, so that's why it's best that if you're not sure about the client acceptance checklist, right, then you can just watch this video and I'll guide you through. Okay, so part 1, right, information about customers. So each individual fill one form. Okay, so in this case, right, who are you? Are you filling self, agent, or connected party? So if let's say you are filling as yourself, which means that let's say you're the director and the shareholder of the company, you are filling on behalf of yourself, then you take this one. Okay, so you put everything in. Okay, then you fill up full name, residential address, you fill up your email address as well. Okay, then intended nature of the purpose of business relationship, why you are engaging us as the filing agent. So if let's say to become the company secretary, to do corporate secretarial work for the year, then you just fill up. To do accounting work, then you can just fill up here. Okay, so information of business entity. So if your company has already been incorporated, then you fill this in. If your company is not yet incorporated, then you can leave this blank. We will fill this up for you when the company has been incorporated. Okay, so information on customers beneficial owner. Yeah, so we need to identify who the beneficial owner is. So if let's say there's more than one beneficial owner, then what you would do, right, is that you just duplicate this section. So this section B, right, just duplicate this page and then you just fill up again. Okay, so why this is important is because there are cases whereby there are some people who are holding the shares on trust. So if let's say I don't want to hold the shares in my name, I may ask a certain person to hold the shares in my name. That means let's say I get this person called maybe John Doe, then John Doe would hold the shares in trust in my name. Then on the business profile, the shareholder will be John Doe, but actually the beneficial owner is another person. So if that's the case, right, then you would actually have to fill this up. Okay, if not, right, then the shareholder is the beneficial owner. Okay, because the company profits and then the profits are issued out to the shareholders, right. In this case, this would then be the shareholder filling up the beneficial owner portion. Okay, so and this one, right, is important. So if this individual is filling up this form, we are asking you the question of are you related to a politically exposed person? So if let's say you are related to a certain, let's say, minister, or an individual who is a prominent public function in Singapore or in your home country, if you're not a Singaporean, then you would actually have to fill this. So if it's yes, then you have to move to section C2. If it's no, right, then you can skip section C2 and just go to section D. So if you answer yes, right, then please inform us who that politically exposed person is, and then information about him or her. Then if everything is done, you gotta fill this up, put your name, your identification number, be it your NRIC if you're a local Singaporean or permanent resident. Then if not, then you would put your passport number, or if you're holding a valid work pass, then there's this thing called a FIN number. Then you just put the date and then you just sign off here. Okay, so these copies, right, you can scan them or you can take photograph using a cam scanner or something. Then you can just forward this to us. Okay, so for form 45, right, this is a declaration, right, for the director to make, saying that they consent to act as a director, and they make a statement that they are not disqualified from acting as a director. So what are the ways that a director can be disqualified? I've covered this in quite a few videos on our YouTube channel. You can refer to our YouTube channel for those videos. But essentially this, the Form 45 that directors would actually have to sign. The main reason is because it states that the director consents to being the director of the company. So we actually fill out the date of incorporation, because sometimes it may be a case of today you want to incorporate, but then by the time the incorporation, maybe a couple of days later, so you don't know the date. So we'll put date of incorporation for the client. Okay, so if you haven't incorporated the company, right, you don't know the name of the company, because your first choice name may not be available. So this one will fill in for you. This company number, right, is the UA number, is the unique entity number of the company. Yeah, so you got to read everything here, then fill in your name, address, your passport or NRIC number, nationality, sign off, and then you date it for us. And then once again you send it to us, we will file this accordingly. And once the company is incorporated, right, we will fill in these details for you. And then last but not least, right, this is the service agreement. So the service agreement, just read through the terms, and then after that, you can leave the company name and UA number blank. What we'll do is that when the company is incorporated, we'll put in the company details. Then you got to sign off, and then name and date. So whatever the company name is, right, once you put in, we'll give you a copy of the completed service agreement as well. But we require these few forms to be filled in. Don't worry if let's say you fill the form wrongly. What we will normally do is that even though the client has signed off, right, we will liaise with the client to tell them, oh, maybe this portion, right, you didn't answer clear enough, or you answered wrongly, or you left it blank. Then we will check with the client, and then we will seek the client's permission in writing, which means that most probably the client will reply us by email or WhatsApp messages, and state that their answer to a certain portion which is maybe blank or answered wrongly. Okay, so these are the forms which are required. If you have anything which you are unsure of, you can actually contact myself or my colleagues. I'll leave the contact details in the description box below. And that's all, and we'll see you in the next video.